follow up lang ulit, babalikan ko lang sir, yung you were mentioning about the assistance that you've received na po from Bayanihan 2 and uh, other laws that were enacted
Great,
previously.
yeah.
As I remember po yung sa private schools before, yung usapan po sa house is that private schools would also benefit dun sa SMEs assistance. Is this also part of it? And then House is now crafting yung Bayanihan 3. What other assistance would private schools need? And also, siguro baka maging kasama na rin po dun yung sa resources in terms of reopening. Like for example, kailangan po talaga dyan ng funding dun um, sa resources na kailangan like staff and also yung physical structure din po ng opening ng classes. Could you give us more information on this, sir?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to go back dun sa una nung bayanihan, and then the economic recovery bills were introduced even prior to bayanihan 2. Ang problema dun sa bayanihan 1, the education sector, yung private schools, parang naging odd sila na hindi alam kung saan ba magpo-fall ang private schools. Sa businesses, small and medium enterprises, saan sila pupunta? Kasi ang nangyari diyan, when the bayanihan, through the bayanihan, the government extended assistance. Yung camp, for example, the Dole camp, hindi nakapag-benefit doon ang mga teachers and school personnel sa private schools, yung unang round. Kasi nga, nadi-disqualify ang schools, hindi sila bumabagsak doon sa category ng beneficiary institutions. And then the schools were asked to go to the DOF, yung small and medium assistance for small and medium enterprise. Hindi rin daw pumasa. So naman yon, naagapan ng ating mga legislators, ating mga congressmen especially. Kaya dun sa bayanihan 2, through also the efforts of COCOPEA, we were able to put in their provisions that are specific assistance to private sector. Not the private institutions, the students, number one, students, and then the teachers. Again, limited budget. Pero, so ngayon, moving into Bayanihan 3, we're just hoping na higher budgets allocated for these programs. Hindi bago, but just ngayon, 600 million for both basic ed and higher ed. Of course, if we increase that to siguro mas malaki pa, billions, mas maraming matutulungan na estudyante. But moving towards recovery and all of these discussions, ang palagay ko na taking off from the discussion in the Senate, ang isa pang i-explore namin how the private schools can be empowered to assume the costs and the liabilities in case of face-to-face reopening for students who will, get the virus. Kasi ito kahit sabi mo sundin natin lahat ng guidelines, it's really not an assurance. We need to assume certain responsibilities for students. Yung immediate response, hospitalization, isolation. You can just imagine sa isang school, merong certain portion ng estudyante makakontract ng virus, who will be made liable. As I've said, the resources of schools galing sa tuition. Should we pass this to yung insurance, i-cover natin sila, sana natin kukunin yon. Merong proposal sa PhilHealth din, etc. So, yung discussion nandyan, not only for operation, but also taking care of our members of the academy, students, teachers, personnel, for their yung well-being nila, safety and security nila from the virus, because we're starting to reopen. So we need government economic intervention on that.
Sir, i-clarify ko lang po yung sa Bayanihan 1 and 2, sa Bayanihan 2, mostly ang may benefit lang po is the students and yung teachers. But the schools themselves, hindi po nakasama doon sa assistance.
Yeah, kasi it becomes complicated, pagka what would the schools need the money for, 'di ba? For rin naman 'yun ang pangailangan nila noon at hanggang ngayon ay resources to pay salaries, 'di ba? resources to continue to deliver the education programs. And how are they able to do that from tuition payments? Eh, wala nga pambayad. So, diretso na yung assistance sa estudyante so that they are also able to pay their schools or choose their schools. Di ba? So, diretso na sa kanila and it's lesser less complication and the help is directly given to this to the students and to the school personnel. Merong mga doon like merong for loans mga ganyan, 'di ba? Low interest loans in general hindi lang schools. Of course the schools are able to avail of that, no? Yung mga kailangan ng mga bridge financing. Of course tulong din sa kanila 'yon. No?
Speaking of assistance to students, what happened to the voucher program? Because some of that was also for additional expenses, right? Like for school materials, maybe the cost of transportation to school. What's the update?
For the higher education, yung tertiary education subsidy, of course, malaki ang yan, marami ang natulungan. It's really a big help, no? But and of course we asked for for an increase in slots in budget, so more students may receive the assistance. Pero dun sa basic education, um kahit merong assistance, marami pa rin ang estudyante na hindi nag-avail ng assistance because they cannot also shoulder the other costs, no? Kasi dun sa like sa ESC and senior high, fixed yon, pero may other related costs pa eh. Baka marami talaga tayong mga pamilya and estudyante na kahit may assistance na from government, yung idadagdag nila doon probably yun na nga, pang load, pamasahe, pagkain pa,
Right.
lahat ng kailangan, no? So hindi pa rin kinaya. So may mga unutilized doon na
Sayang.
So but yun namang assistance din. So inopen sa other levels, hindi lang sa grade 7 at that time. So minaximize naman yung use of that subsidy from the government. But it should also be a footnote, no? Tingnan natin na talagang sometimes the help should also, 'di ba, should be meaningful to some, more meaningful to some. Hindi na talaga kaya na fixed for everyone. You should try to target really the beneficiaries and those who are most in need.
All right. Speaking of students' concerns, it's March already, and people are many students are thinking about summer vacation already. And then there was something in the news recently that I think maybe there may not be summer school, or there may be a shortened summer break for some students. And I think this is understandable for public schools because they started late, but private schools started earlier. What's the status with the private sector? Are you going to have a summer break?
Yeah. Alam mo, I just want to go back, no? Yung before the start of the school year last, kung natatandaan niyo, pinospone yung opening. Naging August, and then August 24, naging October 5. During that time, yun ang position ng COCOPEA. Let's not delay the opening. Kung gagawin namang online, let's allow schools to open earlier so that the next school year will not be affected and the summer break will not be affected, no? Sabi naman nun, kaya pa yan, i-overtime ng Saturday, etc. So, because of the COCOPEA intervention, napayagan po yung mga private schools na magbukas earlier than the public schools. So, karamihan earlier than August, but most August nagbukas last year. And just following the 10-month, the normal school operation, kahit hindi yung shortened, but the 10-month will end in May. So, and if they open in August this year, meron pang 2 months na vacation. So, yun naman ang isang that's the good thing about planning. So, I would say naman for most of the private schools, the students would be able to enjoy a summer break. Not only the students but also the teachers. Kailangan talaga ng break eh. Hindi pwedeng wala. Oo.
Yeah. And what are you looking forward to in terms of the next academic year, June onwards, right? As I said earlier, vaccines are just now arriving. There's still very few of them. I'm not sure when the majority of the population will get their inoculations. Um, there's concern that the virus will linger. Even the president has said that things may not be normal probably till 2023 or something like that. But what would be ideal um, for the sector, and then what would be the implication if we continue face to face in the new academic year?
Yeah, we're actually bracing for worst case scenarios if the trend continues on the decline in enrollment, the closure of the schools. That's why we really need government help, no? Not only in terms of economic intervention, but also policy-wise. No? Policy intervention meaning less regulatory, more supportive, no? Allowing the schools to innovate so that they can maximize their resources in delivering education. Itong next school year, in terms of performance, no, in delivering education in remote modes, no, online, palagay ko, syempre, magaling na yung mga schools, especially the private schools, na master na siguro nila yan. Ma-address na nila yung mga gaps and they can improve on many things moving into the new school year. Ang problem na lang is yung unutilized resources, no, or less no, use of all of the sayang, no? We have the human resources, we have the facilities, walang nag-enroll, no? So that is really where government help comes in. And kahit meron ng face to face, ako ang isang nakikita ko, as a parents pa rin yan eh. It will still diba, go down to that decision making of the parents, and without the confidence, no, that level of confidence on the parents, baliwala din, no? Pero at least nandiyan yung access, they can choose to send their kids to school in campus, but we need to do a better job in convincing them. At again, malaking bagay yung pilot testing, no? The entire country is looking and watching, no, anong magiging niyan, no, moving forward.
Do you think conditions have been better? Mas marami po ba yung schools na magbubukas ngayong school year po? May projections na po ba tayo?
Yung aming kasing survey, no, it's what are their plans, no, or hanggang saan aabutin ng resources. Ang mga tinitingnan ng schools diyan na milestone, syempre yung enrollment, yung admission period, no. So marami diyan umaasa na mag-improve yung enrollment or they would have enough, no, to sustain their operations. Pero ang I'd like to connect that opening also to the delayed yung ending ng mga public school system. As I've said, may mga private schools that support government program delivery of education. So yung nag-implement ng vouchers, nag-implement ng ESC, yung estudyante nila, halimbawa yung nasa grade 7, galing yun sa public schools eh. Kasi walang assistance sa sa elementary, no? Free yan eh. They go to DepEd schools. Pero yung mga parents na naghihintay lang na makagraduate ng elementary anak nila at ililipat na sa private, no? Yan ang may malaking epekto doon sa delay ng ending. Why? Because if the public schools end in July, 'di ba? Tapos ang mga private schools ay magbubukas ng mas maaga or mas maaga sila nagtapos, matagal yung break, mahaba yung break, malaking resources kakainin yon, no? And kung abutan sila ng opening, hindi na makakapag-enroll yung mga galing sa public schools sa mga private schools. So diretso na sila sa public school system. Maraming magsasara na naman, no? Because of that. So hopefully itong mga loose ends na to ay ma-address yung mga gaps in policy.
And also, sir, can you explain to us? Kasi, of course, what I think is that mas marami yung schools na open, even private schools, mas maraming options for students as well. And it would be better to manage social distancing in case we reopen to schools. Is this also your position as well?
Alam mo, depende talaga kung paano natin masusustain yung mga rules na yon with discipline, di ba? Yung social distancing, 1 meter ang minimum, no? That's being discussed, 1 meter ba, 1.5 or 2 meter. It will have an effect, no, sa capacity ng mga estudyante sa schools, ilang shifts. Siyempre, yung use of face mask, face shields, yung sanitation, di ba? Lahat yan, yung ability ng school, these are just the minimum, ha? Di ba? But lahat ng mga health protocols, yung ability ng schools, no, in certain areas and regions, it will really now be the test, no, on whether the campuses will be safe, on whether face to face is really the option now, no, better option than the online. Kasi kahit sabi mo sa areas na zero ngayon, hindi mo masabi pag nagbukas yan baka biglang mag-surge, no? And one more thing, local government really plays a very important role, dun sa opening ng schools na yan, because they provide support to their constituents in general. Yung ability to respond to emergencies or resurgence, no, of the of cases. Anong gagawin ng local government? Anong support? May mga lugar na nagpo-provide ng shuttle, for example, service ng local government sa teachers, no? At sa mga, they also plan to do it for students. So marami talagang factors, pero ang ano diyan talaga, definitely science should be the should be considered. Hindi lang yung geographic areas, hindi lang yung number of cases, mapping, hindi lang yon. There should really be a science involved here, no, in terms of yung risks sa mga age groups, at dapat talagang basehan nito is really more on the science, on should play a major role in the decision whether to open or not.
And also, last na lang po, sir. What is your stand in prioritizing the vaccination also of teachers and other education workers po? And
Well, yeah,
private
sorry.
schools would also procure po ba?
Para sa amin kasi ang teachers, no, whether public or private, they should be considered frontliners. They should be in the top priority then, no? And especially because we said that schools will remain closed unless we, diba, we have the vaccines. Andito na yung vaccine. Laging huli yung school sa pagbubukas or pag-consider, no? So ito naman sana sa vaccine, we're hoping na mabigyan sila ng priority if supply is an issue. Kung makikita mo yung priority, nandoon naman ang teachers, number 6 yata ang teachers. Tapos number 8 yung other school personnel. Pero mauna yung seniors, indigents, no? But we're hoping na mabigyan ng priority yung mga nasa schools. Kasi frontliners sila and we rely on them in preparing the schools for opening. Yung mga estudyante yata hindi pa sila pwedeng, yung sa vaccines yata, it's not allowed for minors. Oo. Tsaka daw sila, they have enough antigens daw to protect, no? Assuming they don't socialize with adults, they're more protected. So ngayon yung mga schools to procure their own, we tried that, kaya lang pinaliwanag naman din sa atin na hindi pa pwedeng dumiretso, government lahat ng procurement. So we have to follow that also.
Or do you think teachers will get vaccinated once the vaccines are available? What's your sense ba? Are they willing to get shots?
Hindi ko pa masabi in general, pero maraming yung on condition na if they're being required, no, to report, no,
I see.
they should get vaccinated. Yun ang ano nila, they should have that also. Pero I think yung the sentiment is general, parang nasa wait and see, ikaw muna. Right. So magpapa-vaccine. And of course, mukhang tumataas na rin naman ang level of confidence ngayon dumadating na yung mga vaccines.
Yeah, well, let's hope for the best. Thank you for your time, Atty. Estrada. Any parting words? Any other points you want to make? Maybe there's something we forgot to ask. A final message from you.
I just want to thank the Manila Times for giving this platform to COCOPEA and to the private education in general. And we are able to present our issues also in a less formal, in a less regulatory environment. We are able naman to present our issues, different levels of the government. I attend congressional hearings, Senate hearings. But of course, sa laki ng sector, no,
Yeah.
the private sector is just a small portion, kumbaga. But the issues are the same. I would say there should be no dichotomy. I always say that there should be no dichotomy in terms of issues for our teachers. It should not we should not distinguish whether it's public or private. And whether it's private or public education, our state should be able to support education because it is a public service, and the private sector should be encouraged more to participate in this public service. So, maraming salamat ulit sa inyong lahat.
Attorney, as you said, it's a good investment, and it earns a return to the country. And I wish you well, and I wish the entire private sector education well as well. Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
and keep in touch so that we can get the latest from you.
Yes, definitely I'll do that. Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Thank you.